Now, Elijah simply means Yahweh is God. And in other versions of the Bible, it is spelled Elias. Now, the story of this prophetic career of this gentleman by name Elijah happened in the northern kingdom of Israel during the reigns of King Ahab and King Ahaziah. Now, for us to be able to understand who Elijah was, we need to see him in the context in which he operated. Sɛ yɛpɛ sɛ yɛte nipa ban a bɛrima ne din de Elia ɔyɛ a, yɛbɛtumi ate n'ase wɔ fan a ɔfaa so yɛ adwuma ne mpɔtamu anaa aborɔno a ɔfaa so tena hɔ yɛ adwuma. So we can only understand Elijah from his historical context. Now, after the Jewish people fled slavery in the land of Egypt, we are made to understand by the word of the Lord that they settled in the land which is called the Promised Land. Now, they eventually became a kingdom and they were ruled by Jewish kings. Now, the first 3 Jewish kings in the Jewish kingdom of Israel were 1. Saul, 2. David, 3. Solomon. Now, after the reign of Solomon, there was a split as far as the kingdom is or was concerned. So the kingdom split into 2 parts. And we had the northern kingdom, which is Israel, and then the southern kingdom, which is Judah. Now, the northern half of the kingdom was divided, and immediately that kingdom was formed, they veered into idol worship. I'm talking about the kingdom of Israel, which happens to be the northern kingdom. Now, the 7th king of the northern kingdom was by name King Ahab. This king took into idolatry, and he took idolatry to a new level. What that simply means is that there were people practicing idolatry, but when he took over the throne, he made idolatry to get to another level or a new level, whichever way you may want to call it. Beloved in the Lord, he was married to a woman by name Jezebel. Jezebel happens to be the wife of this king. And she was the daughter of a Phoenician king. And this woman, you may also want to call her lady, imported Baal worship. And she aggressively led the people to reject their covenant relationship which they had with Yahweh. And they began to follow Baal instead of serving the God who had a covenant relationship with them. Precious one. Elijah was called the Tishbite from Tishbe, Gilead. Now, the Jewish ancient historian Josephus supposed that Tishbe was in Gilead, the eastern half of the Israelite tribe of Manasseh, and possibly also the tribe of Gad, have been in possession of Gilead. Therefore, Tishbe was probably in the territory of the eastern half of Manasseh, or possibly in that of Gad. what I'm trying to do now is to give you a background, a historical background of this prophet by name Elijah. So Elijah was a great prophet of God. One thing you need to understand is that in the olden days, anytime that the Lord allows someone to ascend the throne to become a king, God will give that king a prophet. Anytime that a person ascends the throne to become a king in the land of Israel, what the Lord was doing was that God will always give that king a prophet. Now, the essence of giving that king a prophet was for the prophet to become a guide, so that if only the king will listen to the prophet, then the king wouldn't miss his way. But if it has happened that the king decides to ignore the prophet, then the king will have issues with the one who calls himself the creator of the heavens and the earth. And so anytime that someone ascends the throne in the land of Israel as a king, God will always give that person a prophet. And now that stands to reason that you cannot joke with the prophetic ministry, because it has been in existence for so long a time. If a person becomes a king, the success of that person's kingship many a times is dependent on listening to the voice of the prophet, listening to the prophetic word that the prophet of God, that the Lord will assign to such a king, will listen to. Tonight I have come to hear, I have come to understand, and I have come to make it clear to you that the prophetic ministry is very, very crucial, even in this dispensation in which we happen to find ourselves in. If in the olden days it was crucial, then I've come to understand that even in this era of ours, you and I cannot joke with the prophetic ministry. Now listen to me, child of God. So the prophet will play a role as a spiritual guidance, so that the king wouldn't deviate from the plans of God. And so a time came that this gentleman by name Elijah was called as a prophet of the Lord. Now, one thing you need to understand tonight is that a person cannot just get up and say, I am a prophet. For a person to be called a prophet, that it means he has been called by the Lord. He has been called by the Lord. And it's not a matter of being able to see one vision or the other, whereby the person will put on him or a title that I am a prophet. For this particular gentleman, he was called by the Lord, which is why he was a prophet of God. Now, the spirit of Elijah is a spirit of restoration. The spirit of Elijah is a spirit of restoration. Now, when we talk about restoration, it simply means to bring back something to its former or original position. So it means the thing was there, but something bad happened to that thing. And your assignment is to bring that thing back to its original or its former state. That is what restoration simply means. But one thing I want to draw your attention to, beloved in the Lord, tonight is that anytime something is restored in the scriptures, that thing is either increased, either multiplied, or improved upon, so that the latter state is significantly better than its original state. I want to take it again. I have made a point here that the spirit of Elijah is a spirit of restoration, bringing something back to its original or former state. And I've made the point here that in the scriptures, anytime something is restored, that thing is either increased, multiplied, or improved upon, so that its state becomes significantly better off than what it used to be at first. And that is restoration.